Starmer thought he could silence critics like Tommy Robinson, but Tommy just exposed exactly why the Prime Minister would love to throw people like him in jail. With one sharp post, he laid bare the pattern. Starmer claiming to protect the public while going soft on some threats and heavy on dissenters. It wasn't just criticism. Tommy called out Starmer directly on his past statements, his handling of online crime, and the way he selectively enforces laws depending on who's speaking. The framing was brutal. You claim to defend the people, but you only defend the narrative you like. Starmer tried to respond, but his answers came off clipped, defensive and rehearsed. Online, the public saw the gaps. Thousands dissecting every word, replaying the clip, tagging MPs, debating in threads, and asking the question everyone was thinking. Why is Starmer so soft on some threats and so quick to punish others? And then it got real. Because Tommy Robinson didn't just lob another clip at Starmer, he turned the political pressure cooker up to 11. Robinson's Unite the Kingdom march brought over 110,000 demonstrators to London, far more than anyone expected, with thousands chanting slogans critical of Keir Starmer and calling out what they see as his failures on immigration and free speech. Starmer didn't just shrug, he exploded. He condemned the rally as something that sent a shiver through the country, calling it plastic patriotism and warning against violence and intimidation on the streets. But his condemnation immediately fueled two opposite reactions that blew up online. On one side, critics, especially nationalists and free speech advocates, seized on Tommy's message. They argued Starmer was acting like a prime minister who only defends certain groups and ideas while dismissing or demonising anyone outside the mainstream narrative. People online kept saying things like Starmer just doesn't understand who he's governing anymore and why is he scared of criticism, framing it as a leader afraid of the very voices he claims to protect. On the other side, mainstream commentators and community leaders blasted Robinson and his supporters. Jewish organisations, for example, publicly condemned his rhetoric and refused to let political grievances justify divisive extreme language, calling him a figure who undermines genuine efforts to counter extremism and promote cohesion. Even more explosive was what happened online during the protest itself. Videos circulated showing a man at the rally threatening to shoot Starmer, leading to a police arrest over malicious communications. That clip lit up every timeline and forced Starmer's team into crisis mode, trying to thread the needle between condemning violence and defending the right to protest. And then there's Elon Musk's involvement, appearing via video link at the march, telling supporters to fight back or risk losing everything. Starmer's allies reacted with near horror, calling Musk's words dangerous and inflammatory, while critics said that Starmer's reaction only proved how deeply he fears being held accountable. In the public square, it turned into a surreal contrast, Starmer saying he won't surrender the flag to violence. Robinson claiming immigration has spiralled into existential crisis. Musk backing Robinson's message and calling for political change, and the streets of London erupting into clashes with police. People on social platforms weren't just debating policy, they were speculating about Starmer's leadership, questioning whether his stance represents the majority or simply seems out of touch. Some threads turned into full-blown arguments about free speech versus public safety. Others became raw venting about government fatigue and political representation. The narrative wasn't being shaped by Starmer's spokespersons anymore. It was being shaped in the wild, on X, Reddit, TikTok, and every comment section in between. And that's the moment this stops being a small clash and becomes a nationwide political headache Starmer can't just brush off. Now, here's the thing everyone down the pub keeps saying, and nobody in Westminster wants to hear. Starmer didn't lose his head because of Tommy Robinson. He lost his head because Tommy hit a nerve. Simple as that. This wasn't some random loudmouth yelling into the void. This was a bloke Starmer would absolutely love to shut up for good, man. Everyone knows it. You could see it in the reaction. Too sharp, too angry, too personal. That's not a calm Prime Minister talking. That's a man who's been poked exactly where it hurts. Because look, if you really think someone's irrelevant, you ignore them. You don't hold press conferences about them. You don't start moral lectures. You don't roll out the media cavalry. You let them fade. Starmer didn't do that. He went straight to, this is dangerous, this is toxic, this threatens the country. That's panic language. And here's what lads keep clocking on to. Starmer's tough as nails when it comes to protesters he doesn't like, marchers he doesn't like, speakers he doesn't like. But when it comes to actual problems people deal with every day and borders, crime, pressure on services, suddenly it's all very careful, very legal, very let's not inflame tensions. That's why Tommy's message landed, not because people love him, plenty don't, but because the pattern feels familiar. Say the wrong thing about the wrong subject and suddenly the full weight of the state feels very close to your collar. And the media? Oh, don't get me started. Same script everywhere, same buzzwords, same talking heads telling you what you're allowed to think. People notice that. Middle England notices that. Taxi drivers notice that. Blokes who've never shared a political post in their life notice that. You tell people, don't worry, nothing to see here, while rolling out wall-to-wall condemnation, and they start asking themselves why you're so bothered. That's the bit Starmer doesn't get. You can call people names. You can wag your finger. You can threaten laws and bans. But once ordinary people decide you're more angry at critics than at the mess in front of them, you've already lost the room. And down the pub, the verdict's brutal but simple. If he's this rattled now, what else doesn't he want talked about? That's where this really starts to hurt him. Here's the bit that really sticks in people's throats. Starmer keeps saying this is about keeping people safe and responsibility. Fine. But then why does it always seem to be the same types of voices getting leaned on? Same targets, same crackdowns, same sermons. It starts to feel less like law and order and more like order, as long as you agree. Tommy didn't just shout, he framed it as power. Who gets protected, who gets policed, and who gets told to shut up? And once that idea's out there, you can't stuff it back in the bottle. People start replaying old moments, arrests for speech, two-tier reactions, who gets sympathy headlines, who gets mugshots. Starmer's camp tried to drown it out. Emergency statements, moral outrage, friendly journalists nodding along. But online, different story, clips spreading, comments piling up, even people who can't stand Tommy saying, yeah, but why's the PM this obsessed? That's the danger zone. When the public stops listening to what you're saying and starts watching how you're reacting. Because reactions don't lie. And this one looked angry, defensive, and weirdly personal. Starmer wanted to shut the conversation down. Instead, he made it bigger, louder, harder to control. And now every move he makes just feeds the same suspicion. If you're this desperate to silence critics, maybe they're closer to the truth than you'd like. So this wasn't just about Tommy Robinson. It was about a pattern people think they're seeing and a Prime Minister who looks rattled when it's pointed out. If you want more breakdowns like this, hit like, subscribe and tell me in the comments, is Starmer protecting the country or protecting himself?